Lady Cheria felt certain she had done everything possible to avoid Viscount Rose, yet somehow she ran into him again. Embarrassed, she insisted that she had promised to behave. With a small, cute expression, she admitted that everything in this place still felt strange to her, and she felt safest only when she was beside her mother. Thought that if her daughter truly had to meet him, she would much rather it be after the girl had regained her strength. Still, her mother smiled and asked softly, "You feel safe beside me, don't you?" When she nodded, her mother allowed her to come along on the condition that she remain quiet. Relieved and excited, she agreed instantly. The Viscount began relaying information to the Duke, and the girl listened from the side. He reported that recently monster attacks had been occurring far too often and insisted that reinforcements were needed urgently. He suggested that it would be best if the Duke personally led the forces. Many of the monsters possessed unique powers, and defeating them would provide red mana stones far more valuable than the blue ones crafted by mages, and extremely useful for the future. Hearing this, the Lady Cheria mood dimmed. She thought about next season's crop yields, and tears prickled in her eyes. She whispered that it was nice to hear about the duchy's affairs, yet somehow she kept growing unbearably sleepy. The Viscount asked if her strange fatigue was still troubling her, and her mother glanced at her with concern. Lady Cheria lowered her head and quietly cried. Her mother rubbed her back to comfort her while she closed one eye, exhausted and upset. The king watched the scene with a gentle smile. When the girl lifted her head, she asked hesitantly if she had accidentally nodded off. The king teased her, pointing out that she had been told to stay quiet, but the Duke woke her anyway. Confused, she clung to her mother's clothes, murmuring that her cloak smelled so pleasant. Shyly, she said her mother wrapped her warmth around her like a real shield. With a cute expression, she held out a small item and said, "Here, this is for you." The king observed her reaction closely. She wondered if she had really made it that obvious that she loved money. Growing frustrated, she accused him of going out for a little diversion while her mother worked non-stop. She asked if perhaps he had been sightseeing. He admitted it was something like that. The king then asked whether she wanted to explore the city, pointing out that there was much more to see than the townhouse. Her eyes brightened. She would love that. But then she asked nervously if she was even allowed to roam around on her own, especially with Viscount Rose nearby. The king assured her that there was no reason she couldn't. He paused, then told her to wait. She looked at him with questioning eyes as he drew a map of the Duke's mansion for her. Pointing to a small box labeled with Kibrin's classroom, he explained that this was where Kibrin usually received his lessons. He pointed to another box labeled artifact storage, and then to the exhibition hall, suggesting she might enjoy visiting it. He advised her not to be late for meals. Proud of her new map, she asked again if she had truly revealed how openly she loved money. The king simply thanked her, and said he would take a look. After eating her meal, she rushed toward the king's room with excitement, studying the map carefully. It instructed her to turn left from the hall. First, she examined where Kibrin's lessons were held. Remembering how romance tales often featured cruel tutors, she wondered if that was the case here. If so, she would tell her mother immediately. When she reached the classroom, she asked if she could meet the teacher and thank him. As she explained that Nina had recovered thanks to the herbs he had recommended. "Nina?" he asked. She recalled her friend insisting that he had captured something rather than Nina herself. The truth was that Nina had come to her willingly, and Nina wasn't human at all. The young master approached, and she suddenly noticed something odd. Both he and Lady Cheria seemed genuinely happy to see each other, and their names felt familiar. Kibrin, with his excellent hearing, commented on everything she said, which embarrassed her. She insisted she hadn't been eavesdropping with bad intentions. She then learned that the woman present was the young master's fiancé. Baron Daniel Dawson introduced himself politely, saying he had heard she was quite charming. He was in charge of the young master's history lessons. She introduced herself as Cheria Nectarine and observed that the Baron seemed kind, nothing like the abusive type she expected. She was startled to hear that he wasn't the abuser, he was the one who always ended up being abused. She wondered why he still held the rank of Baron. He looked too plain. As the young master prepared to leave, he muttered about debts and gambling, and she stepped aside nervously. His mood was foul. Fury radiated off him. Lady Cheria cried quietly, thinking the girl must be terrified. Seeing Viscount Rose nearby, the Baron excused himself. He bowed to her and said it had been an honor to meet her. Shocked, she returned the gesture. He reminded her that there was still time before the next lesson, so she should rest if needed. He explained that Nina was actually a very large leopard. She listened as the Baron explained how Nina had recovered. The poor animal had been near death, but her will to live had been strong. He smiled, saying he wanted to see Nina's strength again. He remembered how, back at the townhouse, the young master often spoke to animals like close friends. Perhaps he was the same with Nina. Lady Cheria remained silent with a cute expression. The girl grew disappointed, realizing that even here in the duchy, Kibrin was still kept strictly inside. The young master and Chiria both looked at her in surprise. Again she said that he used to treat animals tenderly, and perhaps Nina was no exception. She offered to visit Nina on his behalf. The young master blinked in confusion. She smiled brightly and promised to deliver his greetings to Nina. His eyes widened. Really? He asked. Just then, the Duchess appeared, eyeing the two children. Declaring that he would come along as well, she made the girl wonder silently, was the young master jealous? She realized that if Kivrin insisted on coming along, she probably would have done the same in his place. It was obvious the young master was jealous. He couldn't stand seeing her grow closer to Kivrin. Trying to maintain composure, he offered her a cookie with a bright smile and asked, "Would you like one, Chiria?" She accepted it happily and thanked him. While nibbling on the cookie, she wondered aloud whether the young master was actually planning to join her. She reassured herself that he wouldn't dare try anything with an escort present. Grew furious, though he tried to hide it. She then asked him directly if he had something to say to her. Was he really going to tell her to get lost right in front of Kivrin? His expression wavered as if he might kneel from frustration. Instead, he abruptly stood and placed his hand on the door as if ready to step outside. She blinked in confusion. So he was just leaving? Before she could make sense of it, the realization hit her, and she asked why Viscount Rose had been there. The young master explained calmly that the Viscount had simply come to check on him. He added that he felt cold because winter arrived earlier here than in the capital. Concerned, she asked whether he caught cold easily. He admitted he did, saying that whenever he felt chilled, he grew sleepy. Like a snake. She laughed gently, telling him that if he were a snake, he would be the cutest one in the world. She privately thought that she used to consider herself cute, at least for a monster, but now that he existed, she would happily settle for second place. He looked shy at her words, and she smiled back with equal shyness. He opened a book beside him, and she asked how his lesson with the Baron had gone. He answered that it had been good. Curious, she leaned in for a look. The book contained a comparison of Kivrin's and Daeneric's writing styles. She pointed out that Kivrin's handwriting resembled his mother's. Still looking around, she grew puzzled by the room itself, wondering if the purpose of the artifact storage had changed over time. Kivrin explained that it used to be filled with stone tablets. She admitted she had no idea what a stone tablet even was. He told her that they were considered valuable. She reflected aloud that such things must be precious even to someone like Kivrin. Just then, the young master stepped forward and asked permission to come in. Immediately after, he announced that it was time for the next lesson. Delighted, she told him she would get going and continued searching for the place she had been looking for. When she reached it, she was surprised to see no guards stationed outside. She wondered whether such a low level of security was really acceptable. She read the inscription. Hates messy handling, hates lies. What kind of code is this? It wasn't a matter of disinterest. Rather, no one desired what she desired, so all she ever did was write in notebooks placed on the stone tablets. She tried to guess who had written them if it wasn't the young mistress. Suddenly, a mage appeared and introduced himself formally as Emil Silentium, a mage sworn to dedicate his entire life to the ducal family. He was the guardian of the artifact storage. She introduced herself, though she couldn't shake the feeling that he looked strangely familiar. Perhaps it was only her imagination. Emil smiled kindly and invited her to call him simply by his name. Then he asked if she had found anything interesting. She mentioned the stone tablets Kivrin had told her about. Emil explained that no one could decipher them, not the scholars, not the tower, no one. They weren't an ancient language or a coded script. Eventually, even the mage tower had given up trying. Confused, she protested that she could read them perfectly fine. Emil waved the comment aside and suggested she look at artifacts far more interesting. She examined an accessory-like artifact and made a cute face. He asked if she wanted one, adding that she could throw away her ridiculous headband. She corrected him quickly. The Duke had given her that headband. Emil laughed and said he meant only that it made others joyful. He offered to give her a proper tour and encouraged her to explore freely before leaving. Her gaze drifted back to the tablet. He had said no one could read it, so how was she able to? She wondered aloud whether he meant these tablets were intended for monsters. She asked Kivrin whether he could read them too. Kivrin replied that he could, but that he had been only a fake monster. She asked him if that meant the script belonged to the creatures. He admitted he had no idea, only that he thought he was the only one capable of reading them until she proved otherwise. A realization struck her like lightning. Kivrin was an overpowered character in the original story. If he could read these tablets, and she could too, perhaps the reason lay not in her nature as a monster, but in the fact that she had transmigrated. Lady Chiria expresses relief upon seeing that the young master can also read what she cannot understand. saying that she initially thought there was an issue with her eyesight. The young master agrees, saying he thought the same thing. He mentions Lady Chiria being present, which makes him feel fortunate. She reacts silently with wide eyes to his statement. She tells him that she is happy to hear him say that. The young master then informs her that he has completed his lessons for the day and suggests they proceed to the dining hall for supper. She replies with an affirmation. 2 days later, with the Baron and her mother's permission, Lady Chiria headed to Baron Dawson's estate with Viscount Rose. She is inside a carriage, and she muses that she did not anticipate that the journey would involve just the two of them without a knight. Viscount Rose, sitting across from her, asks why they would require a knight if she is with him. She asks if he plans to serve as her guard. He answers that he will if he feels like it. She thinks to herself if it is acceptable for a nanny to say she will only do something if she feels like it. She recalls the Duke and Duchess saying that anyone is acceptable as long as they do not treat the young master like a monster. She deduces that the in-laws must be aware that Rose is not exactly ordinary. She remembers that before living as. She turns her attention to the young master, who is speaking to Lady Chiria and advising her not to worry too much. The young master states that Rose is not a bad child. She is taken aback by the young master calling him a child. She internally questions if Rose is his actual name, setting aside the manner in which the young master refers to him. The young master confirms his name is Rose, explaining that his foster mother gave it to him and told him to behave quietly and avoid causing trouble. Rose, who has been quietly listening, thinks to himself that since Kivrin advised him to try, he hasn't actually done anything to the Lady Chiria yet, even though she told him to go away. Lady Chiria responds that she understands and asks him to look after her that day. Rose scoffs and mutters an internal question if this situation is truly happening. The carriage comes to a halt, and a voice announces their arrival at Baron Dawson's estate. She stands in the courtyard, looking shocked as she observes the surroundings. She thinks that the house is impressive in its own way, but honestly believes that even average commoners probably live better than this. He states that the owner poured his money into it, making the Lady Chiria ask into what exactly. She then realizes what he meant as a leopard is visible in a cage. The leopard lets out a big yawn, and the Lady Chiria observes that the owner dresses so shabbily himself, but goes all out for his leopard. She concludes that he must really love animals. Viscount Rose suggests they head back since they have seen it, but she is surprised and insists that they should at least deliver the housewarming gift. He questions if she actually wants to go inside that house. She replies that she does not mind and says this is all for the young master's sake. She adds that if he tells Kivrin that he came just to see Nina, she will love it. She declares that she is going in and tells him to do as he pleases if he would rather leave. Inside the house, someone receives the gift and says thank you, Lady Chiria confirming that these are excellent tea leaves. Servant offers to brew the tea and asks her to wait just a moment. She replies okay. As they wait, Rose asks Lady Chiria if she is really going to drink the tea, and questions if she is dropping honorifics now. Lady Chiria replies that she will drop hers too. She asks why not, since Mara picked out the tea leaves, and suggests they might as well enjoy a cup before they go. Rose insists that she should also be a polite guest for the young master's sake. However, mentions that he keeps hearing strange noises from the ceiling. Lady Chiria tells him not to say there are rats, as he cannot stand rats. She wonders why it feels like he was raised more delicately than the young lady herself. Servant who offered tea returns and apologizes for keeping them waiting. He serves the tea and tells them it is hot, so they should drink slowly. Lady Chiria thanks him. She asks how Nina got injured, noting that she is still wrapped in bandages. Servant replies that she was attacked by a beast. He recounts that Nina managed to drag herself back with a big chunk of flesh torn off. He explains that he had helped its mother give birth once, so he guesses it remembered his scent. A servant thinks to himself that initially he believed the person's condition was hopeless. He continues his thought, a leopard looking out from behind bars. He smiles and reveals he tried the herbs the young master taught him, and they worked. Duchess scarf covering her mouth replies that the patient will need months more of treatment, but it is a relief. He finds this strange. He elaborates that beasts usually prefer humans over animals as prey. Lady Chiria blush reacts with a surprised what. Duchess laughs and tells the young lady not to worry. She assures the girl that the ducal house would never allow beasts to attack people. She thinks to herself, no, she's worried the one next to her might be a beast. The boy changes the subject, telling the young master he is truly amazing. He observes that with Nina, and really with most animals, they seem to follow him especially well. The Kivrin looks intently at the young master and remarks that once he grows up, he'll surely become a remarkable family head. The Duchess replies that he is not so sure. Suddenly, someone bangs on a door, shouting, Daniel, open the door. He excuses himself, saying it looks like a friend dropped by. Someone steps out, and another person, Dewey, asks what he is doing there without notice. Dewey then announces that he caught something way rarer than that leopard. He asks if it's rarer than Nina. Lady Cheeria appears and says it's just a rabbit with an unusual coat color. Duchess with an intense gaze appears. She gasps, "Whoa." The intense person thinks the girl can't even recognize a beast and calls her an idiot. She thinks a beast. She wonders if it's the one that supposedly eats humans as its staple. A monster displayed inside a container, noting that it is the lowest class monster, so they do not actually have to kill it. The creature is a half-white, half-dark rabbit-like animal, and a thought bubble suggests that it will probably reveal its true colors if a proper human approaches it. A Lady Cheeria said that the monster is remaining quiet for now only because there is just him and a crowd of inferior humans around, and she noting that he is so blatantly implying he is not human. She turns to the Viscountess Rose, questioning him back by saying that what is more important is why he is trying to protect her if he hates her so much. He tells the Lady Cheeria to simply get lost. He now looks annoyed, grabbing the Lady Cheeria arm and asking her why she is speaking to him so informally. He explains that she initiated the informal speech when she told him to get lost. She thinks to herself whether this is truly the right moment to be arguing about that. She is now sitting on the young master's lap, looking up at him. He said, "Fine, get lost." She looks extremely shocked and scared, asking him what she did that was so terribly wrong. Viscountess Rose tells her that the very fact that she is leeching off the Duke's family is what is wrong. She insists that her marriage to him is already officially registered. He replies sharply that he absolutely does not care, and regardless of whether she gets a divorce or not, she must just get out of the Duke's house. She is shown with a tearful expression as the Viscountess Rose clarifies that he is saying this for her own benefit as well. She internal thought is revealed, questioning if he really expects her to believe that what he meant. She asked if he get divorced, "Are you trying to marry the young Duke?" He became furious and asked what? Viscountess Rose shouts, "Have you gone insane? No, what did you eat?" He insists he is a guardian, a caretaker, and a nanny, and that he only became a guardian to repay a debt of gratitude. He threatens her, demanding that she never say something so disgusting again, or he will kill her. She calmly retorts that all he had to do was say no, and he is making such a big fuss. He enters, addressing the Viscountess Rose, "Baron," about a matter he mentioned earlier. The Baron is horrified, shouting that it is a monster. The young master with the Lady Cheeria close by, he yells, "Your Grace, get in the carriage quickly." The young master grabs the Lady Cheeria and smiles as a creature flies down. In the background, the Baron thinks, "A monster, that can't be right." She questioned why the young master keeps looking out for her, noting that if the monster killed her, she would be gone for good. The Viscountess Rose replies simply that it is because blood is gross. She looks dismayed, wondering to herself why she was so afraid of this kid all this time. She cries out in frustration. He moves away, and someone calls out, "You wait." The question is raised as to whether it is really alright to just go back. He replies that he already told them it is a low-grade monster. She thinks that 3 average nights are enough to beat it, and that is probably how that man was able to capture it. She continues her thought, speculating that the Baron's family probably does not even have 3 nights. She's staring down intently. She handles the monster. The young master commands for her to go take care of that monster. She looks up in shock, uttering a small word of disbelief. She then thinks to herself that she would leave for the rest of her life. She then adjusts her thought, stating that leaving forever is a bit excessive, but she will gladly get out of the Duke's house for a single day. The Viscountess Rose asserts that the young Duke had a great fondness for the Baron. He suggests to the Lady Cheeria that she would not want to see the young Duke unhappy because of the loss of someone he deeply cares about. She processes this, her eyes wide as she looks at him. She asks if the man is speaking in his capacity as the boy's guardian. The man confirms, saying he is indeed speaking as the young Duke's guardian. The man in uniform closes his eyes and slightly lowers his head in a moment of intensity. The Lady Cheeria is hidden from view behind his shoulder. A different boy, wearing a green sweater and brown trousers, reacts to an unseen attack with a pained sound, crying out, is shown summoning or controlling the surrounding light or energy. The man in uniform, who appears to have been protected, is now looking ahead with a focused, serious expression. He looks around confused, asking what happened, seeing nothing where the monster was. He then wonders aloud if it is truly gone. The man is now sitting, telling the confused boy that he moved the monster to a location far away. The Viscountess Rose asks if the boy wanted him to kill the monster instead. She, looking relieved, thinks to herself that the sight of blood is not suitable for a 10-year-old. She sighs in relief, thinking, "Oh my goodness." Viscountess Rose and Lady Cheeria hands are shown clasped together in a comforting gesture. She looks up at the Viscountess Rose, smiling, and tells him he might speak rudely, but he is actually a good kid. He thanks her for the assistance, acknowledging that she was really dependable today. He clears his throat and then states that he is quite impressive. She giggles, covering her mouth with her hand, thinking he has some courage. He reassures her there is no need to be gone for an entire day. Lady Cheeria returned home with a bright smile, announcing her arrival as she stepped into the estate. The servant greeted her warmly and politely asked whether she had enjoyed her visit to the Baron's residence. She answered with a cheerful yes, still carrying the glow of her outing. From across the hall, Viscount Rose observed her quietly. In his mind, he noted that she appeared normal for now, yet the thought troubled him. Perhaps her seeming normalcy was the real danger. If Kivrin's sealing spell were ever to break, then she would be the first to lose her life. The risk hovered over her more than she realized. She laughed lightly, mentioning that the young Duke had accompanied her. Her innocence only deepened the Viscount's disappointment. He reminded her, almost coldly, that Kivrin's sealing spell was extremely unstable, so unstable that he would not be surprised if it broke that very night. He reflected on the temple's constant warnings. They insisted Kivrin was a monster, but in his mind, she was something far beyond that label. The young master, too, silently compared her to an apex predator, infamous for the ancient superstition that calamity followed wherever she walked. In the past, Kivrin had been called many names: serpent god, demon, fallen morning star. None of them fully captured what truly was. Viscount Rose suddenly regretted his past choices. He murmured that he should never have used that spell years ago. By casting it to dilute the fear surrounding the servants of the ducal estate had stopped being afraid of Kivrin at all. In hindsight, it had been a grave mistake. The young master sighed bitterly, saying he should have kept her from forming happy memories in this place. He believed he should have taught her from the very beginning that the estate was no better than a snake pit, cold, dangerous, and unwelcoming. Viscount Rose agreed that she likely would have been safer that way, but admitted that it was already far too late for regrets. His voice wavered as he confessed that the current Kivrin behaved like a docile child. At that moment, Kivrin, standing nearby, lowered her gaze shyly. She let out a small, awkward laugh and admitted the truth of his words. Yet the Viscount saying that if Kivrin ever regained the memories from her past life as a serpent, everything would change. His harsh behavior toward her, he explained quietly, had never come from cruelty. When he had told her to leave, he had done so out of genuine fear for everyone's safety, including hers. Servant stands bowed before a seated duchess, admitting he truly has no excuse. The duchess responds that it is enough, stating that at least Cheeria came out unharmed. However, the duchess continues, for his friend who recklessly brought in a monster, an investigation will determine their punishment. Servant agrees, saying yes. Duchess speaks, noting that the man still has not changed. The then asks if he is still living with that beast-turned-monster in the slums. He quickly defends the person, saying she is not a beast, her name is Nina. He insists she is a beast all the same, isn't she? She says they should be objecting to the slums comment, Baron. The Duchess orders the man to bring that Nina here. She explains that Kivrin has said he wants to see her anyway. The Duchess adds that it would likely be better for both him and the beast. He looks surprised and asks, "Ah, really?" He expresses his profound gratitude, saying if the ducal house takes her in, he cannot be more grateful. He then timidly asks if it would be alright if he came every day to see Nina. The Duchess simply tells him to do as he wishes. He bows low and profusely thanks the Lord of Crescent Castle and the Waning Moon Forest. Later, Lady Cheeria asks her mother what it means that she monsterized. Her mother clarifies that the specimen was half devoured by a monster. She then corrects herself, saying no, rather, she gave about half her own flesh to a monster. Lady Cheeria asks what the difference is. The mother explains that being eaten by a monster usually means instant death. But, she continues, on rare occasions, one can absorb the monster's ability instead. She concludes that Nina seems to have been affected in the latter way, gaining a tenacious vitality. She understands, realizing that the Duchess wanted to secure an even rarer animal than Nina. The next day, Baron Dawson brings Nina over. Kivrin is overjoyed that he can now see her every day. Nina wags her tail as if she recognizes him. Winter arrives at the ducal household. Kivrin is seen tending to some flowers. He holds a beautiful arrangement of red roses. Kivrin announces that he is all done. Lady Cheeria thanks the young lord so much, remarking she never realized she had such little talent for flower arranging. Kivrin modestly points out that Lady Cheeria is good at making ribbon ornaments. Kivrin thinks that if he cannot even manage a simple task, then Baron Lington should hurry up and recognize that he is hopeless at this. He confirms that the Baron will discover this soon enough. He murmurs that it is already too late. She is surprised and asks what was said. The young lord is asked what he just said. He replies that it was nothing at all. She is just imagining things. He repeats that a letter came from the temple. She is clearly surprised and repeats the question, from the temple. Duchess and Menelik Nectar. He instructs those remaining that while they are away, they must not open the castle gates under any circumstances. The Lady Chiria confirms that she will remember. She from before asks her mother if she is going into the forest again. The mother confirms this, stating that this time it may take a few days. She explains that there is a territory clash between monsters at the Full Moon Lake. Menelik Nectarian gives an order to cancel the flower arranging lessons for now. He remarks that they are utterly useless anyway. Kivrin, who was struggling with the assignment earlier, questions useless. He smiles and remarks that the day has come when even Kivrin sees him off. He wonders if it is because he has such a fine daughter-in-law. The Kivrin simply trails off, thinking it over. The woman says that she will be back soon. She assures the other that nothing will happen in the meantime, so they should not worry. Lady Chiria murmurs, "Okay." A servant standing in a room. The person who received the letter from the temple thinks that even if a letter came, the temple would not be scheming anything, right? Kivrin thinks that if he cannot even manage a simple task, then Baron Lington should hurry up and recognize that he is hopeless at this. He confirms that the Baron will discover this soon enough. A final thought expresses confidence that the gates are shut tight, so what could possibly happen? Lady Chiria, feeling unwell, asks herself why she feels so sick. She wonders if she ate too much earlier. She thinks she shouldn't wake Elena at this hour, and believed she could handle that much by now. She notices something. She is surprised that the two maids are still there. A maid tells her not to ask, explaining that they are causing a fuss, begging to be let in or threatening God's wrath. The woman expresses her outrage at the two high priests showing up like this, calling it such insolence. She realizes that her nausea was caused by the high priests. She notes that it's not just ordinary priests but high priests, stating that their divine power is several times stronger. She questions what she should do, debating whether to go back to her room or climb all the way up to the top floor to get away. A door creaks. She sees the young lord and asks if he wasn't asleep. The young lord replies that he woke up and asks what about her. She replies the same, saying she should be asleep, but they stare at each other. She asks the young lord if he dislikes sleeping alone by any chance, and then asks if he would like to sleep with her tonight. He looks surprised. The young lord says maybe that is better than enduring it alone. He then asks if they shall. A maid says to sleep well, Lady Chiria. They are shown in bed together. The young lord comments that it's cold outside, isn't it? She notes that his nose is red. She is shocked. She feels the nausea is gone. She asks the young lord if he just healed her. He asks what she means by heal, and where she was feeling sick. She explains that she wasn't well until just now, but being near him suddenly made her feel fine. She considers that something like this happened in the snake's den too, and wonders if this is the same. The young lord smiles and says he is glad to hear that. Kivrin is seen looking distressed, but he rarely smiled then. He often blamed himself, thinking of himself as a monster. And the Lady Chiria thinks about how well Kivrin has grown. She feels relieved seeing his development. A person standing outside a magnificent structure, asking what happened next. She asks the two high priests had left. The high priests had reported that no matter what they tried, the gates remained shut and they were not allowed inside. He explaining that His Holiness then requested the Saintess to grant his request. The person listening calls the other man a ridiculous old man. He argues that if the old man wants something, he should come himself. The listener then considers that the old man is not entirely wrong. He reasons that if it's just a weak, sickly girl over there, of course they would be suspicious. The listener, now shown with long flowing hair, instructs the other person to tell His Holiness the Saintess is worried about her brother's well-being. The Saintess wishes to see him with her own eyes. The two chamberlains continue pleading to be let in for almost 2 hours, making Mara furious. She vows that the duchy will ensure the chamberlains pay for this offense. Rose was lying down, making Lady Chiria furious that is he even paying attention to her. Rose casually replies that she is not. She does not even try to pretend to be a nanny anymore. Still, perhaps because of that earlier incident, Viscount Rose suddenly shouts in alarm, asking what is wrong. He points out something, stammering that it is over there. What has caused the panic is revealed to be a bug. He is shown cowering on the floor as the bug is dispelled in a flash of light. She looks at him and observes that all that commotion was simply over a bug. She adds that he even made a monster vanish. He sighs, insisting that the bug is gross. She responds that him clinging to a child because he is scared of a bug is even more disgusting. He clears his throat and admits that the Lady Chiria is tougher than he had expected. He starts to ask if she is not embarrassed. She asks what is so tough about it, suggesting any other servant could have killed the bug. She then asks how she is supposed to know what the other servants do. He states he thought she was on friendly terms with them, as everyone seems to like her. She reveals that is only because she casts a charm. She asks what a charm is. He explains that the charm makes others feel friendlier toward her. The charm also keeps them from being scared of Kivrin. She elaborates that for the record, the charm has no side effects and is not brainwashing. It is merely a way for someone like her to blend in among humans. He then directly asks if she is not scared of him. She stares into the darkness, asking if he is trying to frighten her. She then pauses, realizing something, and says, "Oh, wait." He kneels and says she is a strange one. He then asks if she is sure it is safe telling him such things. She with the charm says doesn't look shocked even though she admitted to using a charm. She questions if it's because she didn't use the charm on the Duke and Duchess, stating she only let them off. She thinks that's scary, but her face doesn't show any fear. He already knew the woman wasn't human, so there's nothing left to be scared of, and nothing would be more shocking than that realization. She smiles and asks in return how the woman knew her true nature. She responds that the other woman made it so obvious. She elaborates, saying humans can't do the things the woman can, such as making monsters vanish and casting charms. Admits she is pretty amazing. She tells the woman not to worry, saying even if she wanted her gone from the duchy, she wouldn't kill her. Lady Chiria thinks to herself, if that wasn't what she was worried about. His hand is shown, then he says of course. He will appreciate it if she kept his secret. Doesn't feel like casting the charm all over again. Replies that fine, will keep the secret. She asks if she used that charm to disguise her gender too. She looks shocked and asks what, asking if he used the charm to disguise him gender. She that since the day he became a nanny, he's been in the same human female form. She is shocked and asks what, saying why, and how does she look to the woman. He demands the girl tell her. She looks distressed and wonders if her gender wasn't disguised. She asks why in the world and demands the girl answer her straight. She says there's no way, but wonders if she. Suddenly young master voice calls out, "Lady Chiria." A young boy runs in. She is delighted and calls him young master. She happily says thank goodness. The woman is frustrated and makes a sound of annoyance. She asks if his swordsmanship lessons ended already. He replies yes, saying it's gotten really cold. She confirms they are taking a break for now. She looks down at the boy's hand. She thinks about Kivrin's hand. She observes that the burn scars are still there, and he still winces when he grips something hard. She thinks only temple healing might fix that. She thought is that even the non-human couldn't do anything about it. He notices her staring and asks why she is staring like that. She looks closer at the boy's hand. A large magical circle illuminates the screen, suggesting a need for a magical solution to a problem. A young lady greets Emile, who responds with surprise, addressing her as young lady. The young lady asks why Emile isn't with the subjugation party. Emile explains that his expertise is in wide area magic, so he wouldn't be very helpful in that situation. The young lady then asks why he is there. Emile replies that he is concerned about the young master's hand injury. The young lady inquires if the injury is difficult to heal with magic. Emile states that he can help the recovery somewhat, but his healing won't be as effective as a priest's. He adds that the young master has been consistently turning down his assistance. Emile expresses a willingness to dedicate his mana to his future master, lamenting that it is a shame he cannot help. The young lady, clearly surprised, asks why Kivrin refused his help. She then asks if Emile could at least infuse the cloth she is holding with mana, adding that she will attempt to persuade Kivrin herself. Emile immediately agrees, saying he would be grateful if she succeeded. He performs the mana infusion, as indicated by a large text overlay. Emile then asks the young lady if anything has ever seemed different to her compared to how others perceive it. She thinks for a moment, then mentions the writing on that monument as one example. She adds that even Rose's appearance seems different. She then muses that she sees many things differently. The young lady wonders if it is because she is a possessor. She briefly trails off, acknowledging that their unique situation is probably the reason. Emile refutes that idea. He insists that even if he were a possessor, he would have concealed the fact. Emile explains that where he comes from, in the Dark City, people who spoke too freely were easily dealt with. The young lady is shocked and asks what was treated so casually. Emile tells her that she doesn't need to hide like he does. He reminds her that both the Duke and Duchess care for her deeply. Emile suggests they would be happy if she confided in them. The young lady realizes that her current situation is unlike when she was at Count Mael's estate, or when she was sold and didn't know anything. She concludes that those bad times are over. The young lady smiles as she is surrounded by images of the people who care for her, including a man and maid, and the young master. She recognizes that she now has people who care for her. However, she thinks to herself that she still cannot tell them about being a possessor. Emile then interrupts her thoughts, asking if she knows how the young master injured his hand. The young lady reveals that she heard he was hurt because she is a monster. Emile says that if that is the truth, then he is relieved she came to him. He then pleads with her to help the young master recover even a little. He mentions that the Duchess was truly heartbroken about the injury. Emile continues, explaining that the Duchess even blamed herself for the Duke losing his right arm because of her, and now she is worried about the young master's hand too. She is shocked to hear that her father lost his arm. She recalls thinking that he got injured while causing trouble at the temple. She realizes the implications of the Duke's injury. She understands that when her mother saw her hand scar, it must have brought back painful memories. Hands are shown, indicating her scar. She concludes that this gives her all the more reason to try and persuade Kivrin. Emile asks if he can rely on her again in the future. She replies that she would appreciate that very much herself. Tells Emile to ensure the young master continues receiving treatment. Agrees immediately. As she walks away, and thinks that she hopes Kivrin will let the young lady help. She decides that next time, she will bring plenty of bandages. Suddenly, the Duchess is startled when the Lady Chiria appears very close to her. She says that she never answered her question earlier. Lady Chiria cries out that Duchess scared her. Lady Chiria calls out the Duchess' name, Rose. Rose asks the young lady how she appears to her.